Hello, welcome back to Creepy and Kooky Cali vlog. I am Lauren Blair Donovan with Lady Grimaldi as always, and I am here with my friend Zach Jobe.
Hello.
And we are at Home of Peace Cemetery, which if you've been with the channel a minute, I have had a video here before, but it was taken down for reasons kind of complicated that I don't want to go into, and I thought I was ending the series, so I wanted to go back to have the complete collection because it's a cool cemetery. But now it turns out I'm maybe not ending the channel. I said it in the notes on YouTube, but I'm hitting the road for a couple months this winter and gonna maybe get to go to some cool cemeteries throughout the country. So I'm like, well, can't end it now.
No.
At all.
Yeah.
Like that's like missed opportunity. But we wanted to come back, and Zach's a great guy. I know him from the comedy world, and we're gonna have fun. So I'm glad we did this, even though we probably could have done this in the spring too.
Yeah.
When I come back, but you know, yeah.
No better time than now.
No.
We don't know, some of these guys might get up and walk around, move somewhere.
They might, you know, hey, I mean, Judy Garland used to be in New York and got moved to Hollywood forever. Lucille Ball used to be in Forest Lawn and is now in New York somewhere.
Yeah.
People do move grave sites, so
yeah.
Who knows? So are you comfortable in cemeteries? I don't even know how much experience with cemeteries you have.
I am totally fine in cemeteries. I used to, when I was younger, my grandparents died. My mom would invite me to come visit her gravestone sometimes. And I think I would avoid it when I was younger, but mostly just because I was like a kid and the idea of hanging out in a cemetery just didn't seem like fun.
Sure.
But nothing about it is like particularly scary to me.
Right.
It feels so natural to existence. Like, I think weirdly as I'm older now, I think it's just kind of nice to be like, oh, we honored people who mattered to us, you know?
Yeah.
And then eventually the people who honored us won't even be with us anymore. So I don't know, they're just interesting. It's kind of like a museum, but there's really only one exhibit. Is that awful?
Yeah. No, I think that's kind of the consensus, honestly. And I'm always saying, like, basically piggybacking off of what you just said, where it's like, these people existed.
Yeah.
We're acknowledging that they existed. It's not a creepy place. This is full of people's loved ones.
Mm-hmm.
Like, when you look at it that way,
Yeah.
like, death is unpleasant, but it's a life fact.
Yeah.
But, like, they weren't always dead. They were alive and had the same hopes, dreams, love, heartbreak that we've all had. So it's a good way to keep things in perspective sometimes too, walking around a cemetery.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this is limited. This is not forever.
Yeah.
So, well, let's get started then.
Great.
All right, here we are at the Warner Brothers graves. This is also one as well. I remember that from last time. I forget which one's in this one. It's really dark. Then we got the other Warner crypt. There's a Warner garden that we're gonna go to in a minute. Oh, we can see this a little better too. Okay, so we got Samuel Warner. He was one of the ones. And yeah, so I guess I couldn't see inside the other one, so we'll figure it out. I should have looked it up. That's my bad, but when we go to the garden, we'll do process of elimination because that's the only Warner brother not in one of these.
Wow.
So wait, you were talking a little bit about mausoleums off camera,
Yeah.
and you had some interesting thoughts, so like, spill.
I see, my feeling about mausoleums, and I guess it's just related to my own death. Like, when I die, I would really, even no matter how successful I get, I never would want to be in a mausoleum. It just seems kind of like a waste of space to me. And like, they all, like, all of this stuff, it's like, this is what, less than 100 years old, probably,
Probably,
right?
yeah, just a little less than 27 is the earliest
27,
internment,
yeah.
I think.
It was like the oldest, like 59. I don't know. It just seems to me like this all fades away too. So I don't know.
An earthquake could split it open.
Earthquakes could split it open. I don't know. It just seems kind of like I had my time and then my time ended, and I don't need to be put in a case.
It's wild too, because we were talking just because like this is such an ornate cemetery where like the tombstones are just exactly what you think of when you think of cemeteries. And I learned with Alex, the cemetery seeker, in one of my last videos, who's a funeral director. He was telling me that like they're all flat now because it's easier to maintain. But even that's a problem because Rita Hayworth in Holy Cross Cemetery, you can't even hardly find her grave. It's so scratched over.
Yeah.
And she's like one of the best classic movie stars ever. And like that's staggering that her grave is so unkept. And it's just like nothing is forever, not even the ways we wish to be remembered. And that's sad, but also life, I guess.
Yeah. Like, sometimes, I don't know, but like as a person who aspires to be in the Hollywood system and all that stuff, there is something that's sort of almost comforting about that to me, where it's like Rita Hayworth was a massive star. And when your time is done, you'll only be remembered for so long. Yeah. So at the end of the day, the outward, acclaim you get and all that people coming and telling you you're wonderful and all those things, that only matters so much.
Yeah.
It goes away, and I think the most important thing is to spend your life trying to be happy for yourself and not trying to get the response from society. Because, like, I
would agree with that, yeah.
It all fades, like headstones and gravestone, mausoleums, it all goes away,
Yeah, I think I agree, but I emotionally have a little bit of an opposite response, which I think is a trauma response, actually, because I had a lot of death before the age of 3, and I think that shaded a lot of things for me. I think my parents meant well, but they did not contextualize it properly, and it terrified me.
Yeah.
And everything that happens to you under the age of 5 informs how you see the world, how you see yourself, how you feel safe. And so, like, I remember as a kid wanting to do something big in life because I wanted to be remembered, because I understood things weren't permanent. So I think it was like a trauma response, but the older I get, the more I'm like, technically on your side.
Yeah.
But I'm still kind of working out some of the kinks with like, but I do want to be immortal because I don't like the loss of control of not being remembered.
Yeah.
But I'm not remembered even now in present time. So it's like a very silly, exhausting,
I get that
thought anyway. But yeah, it's I agree, especially if like the internet keeps being a thing. People can literally dig up information on people, no pun intended, we're in a graveyard, but like things are more, the internet is forever. You can delete stuff, but it comes back on the Wayback Machine.
I think even that, it's like it is forever. It's way more exhaustive. It'll go on forever for more people than at any point. But because of that, there's now millions of people whose lives are documented on this.
True.
How much are you going to dig back into it? It's funny that you were talking about, like, I also dealt with a decent amount of death in my life. It was closer to when I was like 7 to 9 or whatever. And my response was like, it was very helpful in the sense of like, okay, well, it's not forever. Like, this all is just like, it is what it is. You have the time that you have. And like, I didn't become scared of death. I'm not innately scared of death. Oh,
that's amazing.
But like, I am still, even though I think like this all goes away, I am innately scared of being a failure. So even though I'm like, on some level, I'm like, I know consciously that none of this lasts and this will not be forever, and like people will forget you. I always think of like, who won Best Actor in 1983? You don't know. Who won it in 93? You don't know.
It doesn't
matter. Who won it
in like 2013?
I don't know. Yeah, we don't know. It doesn't matter. None of this stuff matters. But then also, there's a part of me that's just like, I didn't book that thing. My life is meaningless. So
this is very Hollywood. If you're curious about how the more grounded brains of Hollywood work and not just the typical diva, the typical narcissist actors, like, we're grounded, but we still have these like emotional like complexities, I guess I'll call it.
Yeah, I don't know if you feel this. I don't want to speak for you on this, but like, comedy and performance and stuff, it became such an important like emotional regulator and affirmation thing that I had, especially when I was like at my youngest and most insecure. So like, when I do a stand-up set or when I do a comedy set and I don't get laughs or I don't get picked on a team, I'm like, well, there must be something fundamentally wrong with me.
It's so easy to go down that road.
Certainly,
Too easy.
Easily. I literally didn't get a call back on something like 2 weeks ago, and I was just like, well, I guess I'm not talented.
And he's on a mod team at Upright Citizens Brigade, which if you're not in that world is a big deal. So like, even if you have accomplishments, it's so easy to be fragile, I guess, and be like, well, I gotta pack up and go home. It's not gonna happen for me because of one rejection. Half the time, one you didn't even want that much.
Yeah, and honestly, that's exactly the case here. The thing I was upset about is I didn't get put on a second team at the same school, even though I'd been on a team at that level before.
Right.
So, like, I've already gotten that approval before, and I was still like, oh, okay, well, I guess they don't think I'm talented. I'll show them.
Yup.
And then I'm doing shows for them anyways.
It's so complicated. Real fast before we wrap this up, have you ever read any Chuck Klosterman?
No, I've not.
He did Sex, Drugs, and Cocoa Puffs. I think that's his most famous book, but my favorite of his is But What If We're Wrong? And it kind of speaks to a little bit of what you were saying about everything's kind of forgotten, where like he talks about how we all blur the Middle Ages or the Renaissance period to be like one long blurb, but really it was like a couple hundred years old, and there was different fashions that went in and out of style and different like technological advances. But now that we're so far away, we blur it all together and kind of overly simplify it, and that's starting to kind of happen with like music. Like for instance, marching band music used to be a diverse field, and now we only think of what's his name, So Smith. I can't say his name. There's like a famous marching. I can't even say his name, but there's one guy that Philip
Sousa.
Maybe.
I think it might be Philip Sousa.
I'll put the font on because I always have to do that because I'm always wrong about stuff. And now I'm talking about a book called But What If We're Wrong? But he was just saying that like it's all been reduced to one guy, and he suspects that either Chuck Berry or Elvis Presley will represent all rock and roll in the future.
Yeah.
Will people even remember Marilyn Monroe? And it's like, but it's true. If you talk to Gen Z, they don't even know. They're just finding out who Britney Spears is in the Free Britney trial, and she's never went away. Even like
no,
you know, like, and I'm not even a big fan, but that's insane to me.
Yeah, we have a poor concept of value, long-term value. Like, there are so many people whose lives were incredibly meaningful for the world or the country or arts or whatever, and you don't know who they are.
Yeah.
Like, you have no context for them. And it's because, like, every human being has a limited bandwidth.
Yep.
And, like, it would be, like, sometimes it feels like an attack on me because, like, Gen Z doesn't know the thing I know.
Right.
But, like, they have their own lives. They have their own, like, shit to do.
They have stuff that I don't know about, too.
Yeah. Like, and can you imagine how insane it would be if a 13-year-old was spending all of their time talking about things that happened 30 years before and
that was me, though.
Culture?
I did get into punk and classic rock and rejected the music of my high school years. But, like, I was weird, though, to your point.
It drove you mad.
To your point. And, like, no one thought I was cool.
Yeah. It's just a thing of, like, we all are, you know, we all have our time on some level and value it as best you can.
Yeah.
And then eventually you're in the Mausoleum with the Warner Brothers.
No Yakko, Wacko, or Dot, though. Bummer.
I was going to
they're still
ask
alive,
about
I guess.
that.
But
Yeah.
It's hard not
They're
to
in
make
the
Animaniacs joke. Yeah, they're in Burbank where I left them.
Mm-hmm.
Right, Grim? I know it's hot. It's a hot day in October, but
it's a hot October's day.
Do you have any connection to the Warner Brothers? Because they're also really old. They are not of our lifetime, even. So I mean, like, besides Animaniacs and Warner Brothers Studios still being a functional studio, like, do you have any?
I mean, to me, like, the Warner Brothers is like a concept more than they are human beings. Like, I think of Warner Brothers Studios as this, like, old Hollywood, incredible powerhouse, like one of the big studios, probably the one that I most wanted to be a part of throughout my life.
Sure.
But them as human beings, you know, it's funny, like, I think if you had asked me at 8, like, what do you think of the Warner Brothers? I would be like, they were people? Like, I didn't know they were human beings. I just
it could have
thought
been a name.
It was
or
just
something.
a word. Yeah, exactly. And so, like, I appreciate all they've done, but as, like, individuals, I have no connection to them other than they made this thing that I love and is currently being destroyed by, like, some idiot CEO that I hate. I don't like David Zaslav on the record.
Yeah, there's also lots of strikes going on because all of the corporate greed of all the studios. It's a mess right now.
It's incredible. They both make record profits, and they don't have enough money to pay residuals. Did you know why they changed their name from HBO Max to Max? Was so they wouldn't have to pay residuals on stuff.
I'm not surprised. I don't think I knew that. I knew it was something fishy, but I don't think I knew it was that. So thanks for sharing with the class.
Yeah, Disney does that a lot too. In case you're wondering why your favorite show growing up rebooted into a new show, so they didn't have to pay people as much.
Yep, and they're also pulling stuff from streaming, so they don't have to have the views, or they can hide their numbers. It's a mess right now.
Yeah, and you can use it as a tax write-off sometimes. So if you go, this show was a huge failure, we had to pull it off. Like, it costs them a bunch of money to have it on a server.
It's insane.
Yeah.
It's insane. But what an appropriate conversation, both about being remembered and about studios in front of the Warner Brothers.
Thanks,
I know
Warner Brothers.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you guys were great. I wish I knew a little more about you. I've paid more attention because I watched some old Hollywood movies, and I'm like, oh, Warner Brothers, and that's a Warner Brothers movie, or I look up some of the stuff behind the scenes if I'm into a film, but a lot of it doesn't stick in my brain because I'm me right now. So
I hear you.
But
I assume all of the people who were from this area or this era only referred to movies as pictures, and they were day drunk a lot. That's my guess about how these people worked.
I don't think you're wrong.
Yeah, smoking a cigar, day drunk. I was thinking about this the other day. We always have this like idea. I think it's like the Mad Men-ification of like they're having drinks the whole time and they're smoking cigars and they're walking around and being like, well, we'll figure it out. Like being smoked. But I imagine the real guys who did that smelled like whiskey and were kind of wobbly, and then people had to do work around them.
It was not as glamorous as it looks.
I don't think it
looks more glamorous to drink in general than it is to be drunk. Drunk is messy.
Yes, every person. I've never met a glamorous person drunk. I've met a billion drunk people. Nobody's ever looked great drunk. No,
they're like making faces and maybe red, and their eyes can't stay open. They're wobbling, and they're like, you know.
Yeah, like I picture. Yes, I know. From firsthand knowledge of myself, I know that a lot. I feel like the Warner Brothers, there's a lot of meetings where one of them walking, all right, I want to do a picture with, who's that new gal? And then just like drunk and stumble out of the room. And thank you. Now we have the movie Twister. I think that was a Warner Brothers movie. So
we got lots of cool stuff from you guys. So if it worked, it worked. We're actually not snarking. Yeah. Because it clearly, there's multiple avenues to success. Being drunk is one of them, apparently. Yeah. So.
Worked for me for a while.
Well, we're gonna go find some more graves now.
Love it.
So here we are at Carl Laemmle's grave. Here he is, right here. And I forgot that this portrait was here. And I'm a little unsettled by it. I don't love it. Yeah, it's not no offense, she's cute as hell. Old-timey portraits, not my jam. This is a really tall mausoleum that goes up. Wow. He's the founder of Universal. This is a cemetery full of comedians and studio heads, basically. And so that's why it's fun to have other conversations, because it's just not our time,
Yeah, I will say I also feel like that's gonna like follow me home. That thing
might be possessed.
This is a pivot, but it reminds me of like when people get tattoos of like a loved one on them.
I'm not a fan of that.
I don't want anyone's face on my body at all. But I remember, rest in peace to the Green Ranger, Power Ranger. Oh, right. He had his daughter's face tattooed on it, and the shading was really bad, and it just looked like his daughter was possessed. And I was just
usually do though, and like your skin can change throughout your life. Like you can lose weight, you can gain weight. So the face could warp and morph, I imagine. So I'm not even the biggest tattoo girl anyway, but like faces on bodies don't belong.
Yes,
you already have a face. You have a face.
I struggle with faces. The only one I support is that full back Steve-O tattoo where he got his own face on his back, and that's all.
I didn't know he did that. That's very funny though.
Yeah, that's very funny.
Yeah, I can understand a joke one like that. Steve-O. Of course Steve-O got that. Like it's on brand. It'd be weird if he didn't, I feel like. I can understand getting like your daughter or son's like footprint, like the baby footprint, you know, that they do, the ink ones, like those.
Yes.
I can wrap my head around that, but I don't like eyes looking at me that are not eyes.
Yes, faces really bother me. If you do some sort of tribute, yeah, like the foot, name, something.
A symbol that makes you think of them.
Yes, exactly.
But like, I didn't even get Lady Grimm's face on me, and I love you more than life itself, but
no.
Like, why?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you know, like, it's just uncanny valley when there's eyes.
Yeah.
Because that's a cute little girl, but it's in a cemetery, and it's a little girl, and it's little tiny.
Yeah, I also,
like it.
maybe personally, wouldn't want a painting of myself in many ways, unless it was I'm able to haunt people with it, sure. But
If there's the intention to do that, then yes.
If my soul was trapped in the painting and I could haunt whoever had it, then yes, I would want that.
Or like if you were doing it as a joke, like a Steve-O thing. Like I would get a grandiose portrait that made no sense.
Yeah.
With lots of animals around me and maybe a spaceship or like, you know, like just something that's just nonsensical, and have people for the rest of the time be like, what does it mean?
Yeah.
What does it mean? Why is there an elephant and a pyramid and M&Ms?
I like that. It's kind of like the Denver airport. Notoriously,
He's a Colorado.
Yeah.
I used to live there too, so we talk about Denver sometimes.
The Denver airport, if you have never looked into the conspiracies, you definitely should. It's considered like the Illuminati bunker, which is where they're all supposed to go at the end times, and it has a bunch of weird art, which they say is like all Illuminati symbols and stuff.
New World Order.
Yes, and like, but like walk around and look at the airport art. It is kind of weird. It's kind of insane. There's kind of a lot of odd choices. But I just love the idea. My favorite part of the Illuminati is that they have to give you clues. Like, you're the most powerful organization in the world, but they're like, oh, let me sneak in a little piece of art that'll tell you what I'm doing.
Hide, but in plain sight.
Yeah, like it's an organization made up of the Riddler, like hundreds of people, and they all have the same mentality of like, I'm gonna tell you what I'm gonna do.
Or like the girl on Instagram that's like, I have big news, but I can't share it yet. It's like, just share it. Like, you're not as important as you think if you have to tease us.
Yeah, and like, it's never that interesting. Don't tease me that you're going to say a thing. Unless you're, like, LeBron James couldn't even do it when he moved teams, and that wasn't actually a big deal. Also, side note about the portrait thing, I did a commercial where they had me do like full like kiss makeup and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then when they did a follow-up ad, they had me shoot it in my apartment, and they printed off these like posters of me in the makeup.
I remember that. You have that still,
I still
right?
have that.
You
Yeah.
should. That
I'm
should
like,
go on your grave.
That would be good if they had like. That's one thing I want. When I die, have a depiction of me that is in no way accurate to what I was like every other day of my life. Like if you just have me in the full kiss makeup thing, doing like a high kick or whatever, and then you're like, okay, I guess he was a musician. I would love for future generations
He was
to
hardcore.
be like,
Hardcore.
this guy was hardcore. And then they look me up and he's just like, this is just bad comedy. I don't understand why he's like this.
I feel so mixed about graves that are like trolling. Because on one hand, I'm like, who were you really? On the other hand, I respect it.
Mm-hmm.
It's very complicated for me.
Yeah.
So there's a few times you see like a funny inscription or like, you know, something that you're like, there's no way, or I don't know, whatever. But it's funny. I like the joke. I like being a troll for eternity. That's not a bad look.
Yeah. I don't like pranking people now. But at the end of my life, if I could like set up a bunch of clues around my gravestone that people think there's a mystery and they start looking into it.
That'd be really fun.
That would be funny for me. Like I would enjoy, I don't want to like with me, the reason I don't like pranks is because they're very hurtful for people.
They can be, yeah.
Like,
I used to be very into pranks, and I've changed my tune a little.
But if you have because most people are bad at pranks. They're just I'm going to be mean, and that's the prank for them.
Or even if it's not mean, it's still a roller coaster you're putting someone on. Yeah. That's what I've learned, at least. Really. Yeah. We have enough stress in life.
Exactly. I mean, a YouTube prankster just got shot in the stomach the other day for an awful. He lived, for the record, but he was like following around a guy, and the guy was like, "Leave me alone, leave me alone, leave me alone." He would not stop. The guy just pulled a gun and shot him. So that's why I don't prank.
Fair.
Yeah.
It's a safety thing at a certain point.
In the U.S., yes, it's a very safe thing.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
She's watching me.
She's between us.
She's always between us.
We're going to get a selfie with that. I'm I'm having flashbacks from the last time we were here because this is a deceptively big mausoleum. Like if you look at it from the outside, it's big, but you walk in and it's pretty straightforward, but it's not very well lit. Mm-hmm. It's very old and it's pretty, but it's a little creepy. I feel like Louis B. Mayer is down one of these. Of course, we're not clocking. Immortality, yeah. Yeah, this is him. Oh, this is even less well lit, I think, than last time. Yep, there he is. Louis B. Oh, that was so much easier than I thought it'd be. We got a little lost last time, so. He was MGM. That's what the mayor was for. And so, yeah, he was one of the founders of MGM. So, I don't love to talk ill of the dead in front of the dead. Mm-hmm. We're not that far away, but he wasn't the nicest man.
Yeah, I'm not shocked. He was a powerful man.
In the 30s.
In the 30s, yeah. Yeah.
A kind of a notorious monster to like Judy Garland, I think in particular, when she was a child star.
Judy Garland had a really rough time of it.
I'm not even the biggest stan. I'm a little late to the party. I didn't even watch The Wizard of Oz till like a year ago, you know, so I haven't seen a lot of her stuff. But I've gone on some deep dives recently, and I'm just like, that poor woman was terrorized, not just traumatized, terrorized.
Yeah, she was terrorized and drugged and abused her entire life.
Not one break.
Yeah, and like dudes like that just see the people as just cogs in a machine.
Commodities, yeah.
Literally can't understand that you are hurting a person.
A child,
yes.
Yeah.
Every time I hear a story about a child actor, it's like the worst story.
There's some debate if we should even have child actors, and a part of me doesn't want it doesn't want to change it because I don't want adults playing children. That's weird. And I don't want to not have art about children or have children see representation in themselves. But also, I don't know if ethically it is a good idea either. I'm conflicted.
I agree. I wholeheartedly agree. It is difficult to say that this is good for anyone that we're doing this. But I agree. Like, I don't want to see, like, maybe if you write a story that doesn't have children in it, but like, I don't want to see adults playing children.
No, unless it's Clifford, the dark comedy from 93 or 4 with Martin Short. I do love that movie a lot, but it's Martin Short, so.
I would settle for if all children performances were Martin Short instead. I would watch that.
That's the deal. That's the amendment that we're willing to negotiate if this happens. Yeah.
Yeah, and when I'm a studio head, I'm going to be like, get Martin Short in that picture.
Cannot wait for you to be a studio head. That's going to be amazing.
Really bad stuff's going to come from that, so that's going to be. I'm looking forward to that.
At least you're not going to terrorize children, though.
No, only Martin Short. He's the only person I will terrorize.
He can take it.
He's fine. He's strong.
He's successful. He's already made his mark.
Yeah.
He can take it. Knock down a few pegs by Zach Jobe.
Yeah, fine.
Movie mogul.
Yeah, he's had it too good for too long, that Martin Short.
Yup.
Yeah.
Well. Hopefully Louis knew that he did wrong at some point and felt remorse, because that's what we can only hope for. But I don't, for some reason, if I'm a betting man, I don't know about that. But
yeah, I wouldn't put money on it.
All right, well, may he rest either way.
Yeah.
The cemetery is like pretty straightforward for the most part, and it's small and not immense, but it's a maze.
Yeah.
Like in the mausoleum. And it's very counterintuitive.
Yeah.
About like...
Well, like, if you walk in the main corridor, you don't expect it to have this much around the sides. Like, this is kind of tucked away, and this is huge.
And he found the entrance. We literally went down every corridor. I'm like, I know there's a secret door somewhere or something.
There's also, like, a secret path back the other way. There's another corridor down there, so...
this year there was a kiss mark too.
Wow.
And it's like, maybe it's the same one, and maybe, that was almost 2 years ago though. But he's beloved. He died in 55.
Yeah.
And he's still getting kisses and flowers. And a photo. That, I don't know if that's the same one that's been here for years, but that's crazy. Lots of rocks and accoutrements.
Feels like they should have like a built-in photo if they're gonna put one up, like, you know,
Yeah.
just put one under his name placard or something, you know.
Well, wait till you see Curly, because like he says beloved husband and father, and he has this, but like Curly doesn't even have his stage name.
Really?
No, or no, you'll see in a minute, but yeah, it's pretty wild.
Yeah.
So are you a Three Stooges guy, or were you as a child, or
I was for a while, yeah.
Yeah.
My dad showed me Three Stooges, yes.
Same.
And then he also, I also had the Nintendo game, the Three Stooges Nintendo video game.
There was a Nintendo game of the Three Stooges?
Yeah, it was notoriously extremely difficult to play.
What did
But I
they
used to
do?
play it
Poke
all
each
the
other in the
time.
eyes, and that was the game?
There was like 4 or 5. It was just a bunch of mini games. So like one of them, you're trying to push him through a hospital in front of obstacles and stuff like that. And you're trying to get out of the way of the obstacles, kind of like almost like a paper boy. And then I can't remember the other one. That was the one that I remembered I played the most, was the hospital one. But there were like 4 or 5 different little mini games. So if
That's
you're ever
cool.
looking for something to do, play the NES Three Stooges game.
You said it was hard, so did you ever like beat it, or did you ever get better at it, or was it just one of those games that's just
I
like
got
nobody
better
can
at
play?
it, but I don't think I ever beat it. I was never like, I played a lot of games growing up, but I never like, I wasn't like a person who beat a bunch of games. It was like I played a bunch of games. We also we had in the Nintendo, and then my mom worked at the cable company, and we had a Sega Genesis, and we had Sega Channel, which is like very few people know about Sega Channel.
I didn't know about that either.
Yeah, it hooked up directly to your cable box in the 90s, and you could, and every month you'd stream new games. You'd have like 30 new games.
That was like
available
ahead
to
of its
you.
time.
It was really ahead of its time.
Like,
and
wow.
it died. Sometimes you can be too ahead of your time,
That's
and
true.
it died because of it. That's what'll probably kill me. But I remember I used to play games all the time until the point my parents were like, you have to go outside because you're not doing well.
But that's so funny, because you just stumbled into another thing that cemeteries, especially in Hollywood, kind of make me think, where it's like we're visiting the graves of famous, successful people. But how many people are buried here who were just B actors or actresses, or maybe never even discovered or wanted to do it but never did for whatever the reason? Like it's, and of course all walks of life and all like professions, same thing, but in Hollywood and us being in the industry, it's hard not to like go down that rabbit hole.
Because
Because it could have been ahead of its time, or
Yeah.
like just not what the time period called for.
Yeah. Well,
You know?
I mean, it's a thing of like, with our specific chosen desired line of work, there is a real tangible hierarchical value. You know, you're an A-list star, B-list star, C-list star, D-list star, extra, you know, all those different levels. And it's a specific thing that you don't get really in almost any other profession. In most other professions, like if you're a teacher, we very rarely rank the teachers within the context of a school.
Yeah, it's not like an A teacher versus like, oh, this teacher, they're not that talented.
Yeah.
Or like, they're not famous yet.
Yeah, but it's one of those things where it's like, if one of these people was an actor and they didn't hit it big, and Shemp was in the Three Stooges for a period and that was a huge part of his life, we all end up in the same place. It doesn't
that
really
too.
matter.
There's that
So, I still would like awards though. I would like to get those, even still.
Just a little, you know what I want? This is the kind of monster or human that I am. I don't know, you can decide, you guys can decide, but I want enough validation to prove I can do it, and then be cool enough to be like, I don't need any more. You know what I mean? Like, I want to do some like box office like records of movies I've written and directed, or like maybe not even records, but like successful, or maybe win an award, and then be like, it's okay, I just do it for the art. Maybe I won't even submit to the Oscars this year. I want to reach that level of cool.
Yeah, I just want to be able. I think my most aspirational is to make stuff I'm proud of,
That
and
too.
have enough success that I get to keep making the stuff I'm proud of until I don't want to do it anymore. Because I feel confident there will be a point in my life where I'm just like, this is a lot of work. The worst movie you've ever seen
It's a
was
lot of
a
work.
tremendous amount of work.
more than you can imagine. Yeah.
It went on forever, and it was a deeply unpleasant experience for all, but it was a lot of work.
It's so true. And I don't even really want to be famous. I'm just willing to be famous so I can have the career I want and get to do what I want and move in the industry. Fame terrifies me, actually.
Yeah.
So whenever I'm joking about I'm not famous, I'm kind of being like, I don't really care. But
I think the idea of even like walking down a red carpet is not a particularly interesting one to me. It doesn't sound super fun.
It sounds awkward.
I don't really like the idea
Visual.
of being watched by like strangers or people being aware of my presence or whatever. I like, unless they think I'm handsome, and then all right.
All good.
But like I don't think I would really. Like what you're saying, being like an A-list celebrity actually sounds very unpleasant to me.
I agree.
And also there's this thing, I think about this lately, it is so sort of inherently infantilizing to be an A-list celebrity. There's like, there's a thing I've heard on many occasions where it's like, whatever age a person gets famous,
yes,
that's the age they stop maturing.
Because people stop saying no to them and they don't have to evolve. Stuff. Yeah.
I was on set for like a small commercial, like non-union commercial, and I was talking to a crew guy and he was just like, yeah, man, you really have to we're really told be extra nice to actors and don't tell them no and give them what they want. And I was just like, this is a commercial for nothing. This is nothing. This is meaningless. And you're still told at the level that I was working at, which was not high in any capacity, that people are just going to be like, good for you, child, and then pat you on your head and send you along.
Yup.
Yeah.
It's true. It's true.
In case you're wondering why all those rich people sung Imagine when the pandemic happened, that's probably it. It's because we patted them on the head too many times.
They're so bad. A few had talent, but the most were just robotic and not even charismatic, and just it didn't do anything. It didn't help. It was cool, you're in your really fancy kitchens stuck at home. Cool, share.
You know who I don't want to hear sing? People who can't sing.
Yeah, that.
I sometimes don't even want to hear people who can sing.
Oh, people singing Happy Birthday to me is my nightmare. I fucking hate it. Oh.
And if you thought that the only thing that was separating people in a global pandemic who were in isolation from sadness to happiness was just your presence and you doing a bad rendition of a song, that on my best day, I'm not dying to hear Imagine. I'd be great if you could have brought the Beatles back, or you could bring
different story.
If you could bring back
John Lennon from the
grave, and he was singing it, that'd be a big deal. But if Gal Gadot wants to do it, no thanks, I'm good.
No, or these little Nepo supermodel types. It's no, you don't have to sing to us. Because I do like that song, and it kind of bastardized it for me. It was this is just whether you don't care to hear it or whether you like the song under normal circumstances. It was not helpful, but...
Yeah. It's there's a thing where, and I think you can see this in a lot of people's art, where you as an artist or them as celebrities have to realize no one inherently cares about you. Nobody comes to a show for you.
It's for your art.
They came for themselves, actually.
Well, true.
They may like your art, but they came so they could be entertained.
And feel something from your art.
And feel something that is related to their lives. So, it's an inherently selfish process for everyone involved, maybe, if you want to look at it very cynically.
Yeah.
But if I sing Imagine on stage, that would be bad because I can't sing and people don't want to see that.
Right.
So why do that?
But if you got famous at 18, you wouldn't know the difference.
I might think, wow, well, everyone keeps telling me everything I do is good, so probably I should sing Imagine when literally
people are dying.
Over 1 million people died, and I'm just what if I sang a little song?
I helped, yay!
Yeah, from a vertical facing camera. They didn't even, that was another part, they didn't even tell all the actors and models and whatever, they didn't tell them all to hold the camera the same way. So
it's chaotic.
What are we doing here?
They're professional. They're the top of the industry.
Yeah, and it was people I trusted too. A few
There's
of those
a few
people,
of those,
I violated my trust.
I agree.
Kristen Wiig.
Yeah, that was a weird one.
You have better judgment than that. I know you have better judgment than that. You're smart.
You have a good reputation in the comedy world too.
Yes.
So like what? Maybe the pandemic made her crazy. Maybe it was her get out of jail free card.
Pandemic made a lot of us crazy. We did a lot of crazy
We're still
stuff.
recovering.
Yes.
We're still recovering. But
Yeah.
oh man. But yeah. See, if they did it, it would have been funny. Because they would have understood the assignment and they wouldn't have taken themselves so GD seriously.
Yeah.
Like, I won't say the thing in the,
Yeah.
religious cemetery, but
Big man.
yeah, I'm not really a believer, but I'll be nice, I'll be respectful, but yeah, I need to rewatch a bunch of Three Stooges stuff because I really haven't seen it in a long time.
I'd be curious how much I'm interested in. I would watch it again, but I don't.
There's some stuff from like give or take 100 years ago that's still very funny, and there's some stuff that has not aged well, or it's not even that it aged poorly, it's just that we're so far past that starting point.
Yeah.
So it's a mixed bag when you watch old comedy, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of old media is like, oh, this is great, and we kept building on it and building on it and building on it, and our desire to see that change.
Yeah.
Because like with a lot of film and all this stuff, kind of the worst thing that can happen is that a scene gets really popular or a story structure gets really popular because we'll just hammer it to death.
Well, yeah, and especially with comedy, it's only funny if you don't see it coming, and if it's being done over and over again, you have to comedy is an ever-changing art form, no matter what, because it gets redundant.
Unless the guy gets hit in the crotch, and then it's always funny.
Always. Yeah. Well, speaking of that, let's go find his brother.
Great.
I feel like they beat each other up a lot in places. Maybe the crotch. So, this is fascinating. Here we are at Curly's, and I was sort of saying this to Zach, but beloved husband, father, and brother doesn't even have his stage name. No indication that this is a famous icon of comedy.
It's definitely the choice.
And then, it's so decorated. And usually it says nyak, 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 but instead it says thank you for the nyaks. And usually it's stones, but this is like pennies and nickels, which is kind of cool. I've never seen this version of it. There's a lot on the internet of variations of what I saw in real life, but it's,
Yeah, you should definitely snag a picture of that before we go.
For sure. All right, so we got Jack Warner and his wife Anne, which I don't know if I should say this, but I did research after, and I think they were in like an open marriage. Okay. For the times that was hidden, I guess, because of the times we were in. But but this is their garden, Warner Garden. And I still find it hilarious. He's like, no, I don't want to be in the tombs over there. No. I need to be by myself with the wife.
They finally get a little time together,
Yep, away from the family, no in-laws for Anne, all the things. But I guess same difference with the Warners. We've already talked about it, so.
Well, you said they were in an open relationship, and like, I imagine there are a bunch of secret people
it's
in
possible.
Here as well,
Secret lovers, maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
Who knows? Who knows what's been lost to all of time? Whew. Well, that does it. There are some other famous internments here. A few that I'm a little bit more familiar with because I've been watching a lot of old movies lately, but we're on a time crunch. It is boiling lava hot. And I don't think we're gonna go find them, but now that I know I'm not ending the series, maybe sometime in the spring or summer of 2024, when I'm back in town more permanently, maybe I'll come back here and do a second deep dive, a third, but a second for what will be preserved, I guess, since the other video is not preserved, unfortunately. What do you think of this cemetery?
That was interesting. It's relatively small. To me, I think the highlight, if I were to take a highlight of a cemetery, was the Mausoleum. It's very interesting in there.
You were even saying you wouldn't mind being interred in there. But not the crypts, but like the house crypts, but the Mausoleum crypts.
Yeah, I feel like if I was going to be buried, which I don't think I will be, I'll probably try to be cremated. But I liked the indoor space. I thought it was a nice place for people to go around in.
It is nice, and it's weather controlled too. So if your loved ones, like, that's my thing. I never talked about this actually, but growing up in Pennsylvania, if I wanted to visit loved ones and it was like winter, you kind of couldn't, because it's like there's a cemetery on a hill, so it's like slippery if it's snowy, or like where my dad is buried. And granted, he died when I was 19, but like his parents are next to him. And they died in my childhood, and but they have the flat grave, so if it snows, you have it's just you can't even see the headstones.
Yeah.
It just gets snowed over. So it's kind of nice to have, at least for our lifetime, like we said, nothing's forever, but
Yeah.
it's preserved for now to visit. So
Yeah.
kind of nice. You having fun?
Yeah. I think cremated or Viking funeral.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I like the idea of having a funeral. I'm still a little mixed on what I want. I don't feel like I want to be in the ground. I kind of want to be... cremation makes sense to me, but I'm afraid of fire, and as like weird as that sounds, because I'll be dead, it does creep me out. But I don't like the idea of rotting in the ground. I know I don't want to be at sea, because the sea creeps me out too. So like, I don't know, I kind of want a coffin, because I'm like kind of a goth. You know what I mean? So I kind of want my coffin. I feel like I was promised that my whole life. But
Yeah, that's fair.
I don't, but I mean, it's so silly, but yeah, I do like the mausoleum a lot too, though.
Yeah.
Mausoleum's the dream, I think, just because it's clean, it's nice, it's not super creepy.
Yeah.
You get your coffin.
Yeah.
You're not in the ground with worms eating you.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
There's no utopia in death, though.
No.
Right, girl? Yeah.
It all fades away.
I want to be buried with Lady Grimm.
I'm curious about this before we go, because I feel like you might know this more than me. I heard that higher end coffins, hello friend, I heard that higher end coffins are actually worse for burials sometimes because they seal airtight.
There's something, I don't remember all the physics of it, but there's a lot of, all high-end coffins have unnecessary bells and whistles, if you will, that are just, because it's like you need a pillow for their comfort. Do you?
It's like, no.
Do you? Or they try to get you just by having a more expensive wood or brass or whatever.
Yeah.
But I think there is something about the sealed, like how it seals, that's also, if nothing else, not good for the environment, I think is what it is.
I had heard because your body releases gases that you sort of inflate and explode.
Exploding corpses are a real thing, yes, for sure.
Yeah.
I think that can also happen in mausoleums. That's a fun Google search too, because it's like, well, how do they decompose without smelling? And it's a whole elaborate system.
Yeah.
But if you have an expensive coffin, that can happen, and it can leak, at least to my understanding. But yeah, fun facts.
Yeah. That's why if they need to just throw them in the ocean, they can.
Or you can just do a pine box that'll decompose on its
Yeah.
own, or even like certain types of cardboard, I think, will too. I forget, I was reading about something like that. So
Yeah.
you don't need the fanciest coffin. I just want a coffin-shaped coffin, really.
Yeah.
I'm like kind of creepy.
I think it'd be nice to have like one of those, like, you know, where they put you into like a tree pod and it grows out of tree. I think that would be nice if that actually worked and they actually did it. I don't know enough about them to know.
I don't know enough about that stuff either, actually.
But it would be nice to be like, oh, you know, my existence carried on as part of this tree or something like that. I think that would be very sweet.
Yeah, there's some... Yeah, I like that stuff too. I don't know, I'm still thinking. Hopefully I won't die anytime too soon where I have to think about it. But before we go, I just wanted to say we were kind of lost looking for Curly's grave. We didn't stay there too long because it's so hot today, hence we're trying to like shade. It's an ungodly hot October day, kind of unexpected. But a grounds worker saw us walking around aimlessly and was like, who are you looking for? And he showed us. And I just like to normalize that people who work in graveyards are really some of the nicest people. I've a couple times security, like I tried to film something yesterday and he was kind of a dick about the dog. Like, he can kick us out, that's fine. But it got a little weird. He tried to tell me to leave the dog in the car. It was also a 90-degrey day, or 85. I'm like, I'm not doing that. Like, I said it nicely, but I'm like, I'm not gonna leave her in a hot summer day in the car. And he just kind of looked at me like I was crazy. So he was like the exception, but most people that work in cemeteries are nice because they have to be there with people on the worst days of their life, and they have the perspective that this is all gonna end, you know, and whatever that does internally. And I feel like there's just a misconception that everyone's a creepy weirdo that's in the death industry. And it's not. That's just not the norm, you know. The funeral director I had on was really nice, and he has quite the following. Like, I got lots of women commenting about how hot they thought.
Trapping.
Very much so. And so, like, I love that, though. I love that he wasn't some old dude. He just said this, like, jacked guy, because it helps. That's the point of these videos. Normalize that death is a life act, and it's not inherently creepy, and people that work in death are not bad either, and people who are dead are not bad either. Like, it's just,
some people who work out here are smoke shows. They're hotties.
Yep.
they could get it, you know? That's important.
We're normalizing all the walks of life in cemeteries. That's what we're doing. That's what we're doing. So, just had a golf cart go by. That's fun. So, I guess that does it for today, because I feel like we naturally walked into a lot of the questions that I ask people anyway. So, this was super fun. Thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Of course, and I'll link his social media and all that jazz in the credits. And this is Zach Jobe and Lady Grimaldi, and I'm Lauren Blair Donovan, and stay alive until next time. Bye.